Hello future CA, welcome back to my channel again. So if you are preparing for the CA Inter Income Tax exam, today's video can help you avoid some of the most common errors students make in chapter 1, that is basic concepts. So it has been noticed that many students lose marks in this chapter not because they don't know the provision, but because of small avoidable error in the exam. So in this video we'll discuss these errors and most importantly how you can avoid them to maximize your score. So these errors were revealed by the ICAI faculty themselves in the fortnightly webinar. So it's very important. So these errors were disclosed based on the past exam analysis. So guys, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe for more CA exam related content, strategies, tips, etc. Also guys, if you are looking for a strategic and structured study and revision planners, I have prepared a couple of them. So as you can see on the screen, there is a 90-day study and revision planner for CA Inter both groups. And there is a 50-day revision planner. And there is also 44-day revision planner for CA Inter both groups. So these revision planner will help you achieve the complete syllabus coverage, balanced preparation between all the subjects, daily subject-wise timetable, smart revision cycle, smart rotation between all the subjects, dedicated practice plus MTP analysis slots, proper time allocation for theory and practical subjects, reduce last minute stress, clear daily targets to avoid procrastination. So basically this planner will help you to complete the revision planning including daily subject-wise slots plus smart rotation between all the subjects to maximize score, and it includes dedicated MCQ practice slots to improve speed and accuracy. Plus it contains MTP practice plus analysis slots and MTP error tracking and correction slots plus RTP practice slots. So this is not just a timetable, it's a strategic revision system that prioritizes on high weightage topic, ensures timely revision, includes mock test integration, maintains realistic achievable daily slots, and prevents burnout through structured flow. So consistency plus structure leads to exemption level preparation. So if you are also looking to make your preparation stress-free, you can check out the study and revision planners. The link of these has been given in the description below. And you can select any one of them based on the number of days left for your examination. So the first and the most common error noticed was that many students don't read the questions carefully. That is, they do not read what the question is actually asking. For example, if the question asks you to compute gross total income, calculate only the GTI. Don't unnecessarily proceed to compute total income or tax liability. Because sometimes it was noticed that in the question they asked to compute GTI, but the students were computing total income and tax liability also. So remember, writing extra calculation does not fetch additional marks. Instead, it wastes your valuable exam time, which you can utilize in writing the other answer. So always identify the exact requirement before you start solving the question. So read the question carefully. So the next error noticed was confusing the default and optional tax regimes. So one of the biggest scoring areas and one of the biggest source of errors is confusing the default tax regime with the optional tax regime. So several provisions differ between these regimes, including salary exemption and allowances, house property provision, business income provision, income from other sources, pension taxation, slab rates, basic exemption limits and surcharge rate. So all of these are different in the default tax regime and optional tax regime. So these differences appear across multiple chapters. It's better to prepare short notes highlighting every provision that changes depending on the tax regime. And one day before exam, you can quickly revise these notes. So this will save you a lot of time during your revision. So in the exam also be very careful while you are computing depending on the regime that you are following, because there are differences in all the provisions that we saw just now. The next error noticed was students often forget small but important differences such as basic exemption limit. So the exemption limit differs under both the tax regimes. Then the surcharge rate. So maximum surcharge rate is also different under the default and the optional tax regime. So these may appear like minor points, but they are frequently tested in the exam. Hence, as mentioned earlier, make notes in which you make notes as default tax regime and optional tax regime and write the differences in the provision so that you can revise one day before the exam. And then it was also noticed that many students know the concept, but they still lose marks due to careless mistake. The only way to reduce these errors is practice. So avoid silly mistakes through practice. Practice writing each type of questions multiple times. So when you repeatedly solve the problem, you identify your weak areas. You recognize your recurring mistakes. So the difference between high scorer and average scorer is not knowledge, but avoiding repeated errors. So written practice is very, very important. Do as much written practice as possible. So every time you do the written practice, your errors will go on reducing and you will become perfectly ready for the real exam. And the next error noticed was students don't make revision notes for the exam. So it is suggested that while solving practical questions, mark the questions you couldn't solve on the first attempt. Revise those questions again. If needed, discuss them with your mentor or your friends. So now suppose you solve 10 questions. Out of these 10, you solve 5 of them comfortably and you struggle with the remaining 5. So mark these as difficult ones. During your next revision, out of these difficult 5, maybe only 2 will still trouble you. So those 2 questions become your most important revision questions now because they represent your weak areas. So instead of revising every question before the exam, you can focus on these marked questions to revise efficiently. This will save your valuable time as well. Another commonly committed error relates to marginal relief. So remember always, while computing the final tax liability, first you have to compute the marginal relief and then you have to apply the health and education cess. So sometimes the students apply the health and education cess and then compute the marginal relief. So changing this sequence can lead to incorrect answers. Another error which was repeatedly seen in the revision classes as well as in the previous exam is giving section 87A rebate to a non-resident individual. So remember, a non-resident individual is not eligible for rebate under section 87A. So many students know this provision, but they still forget it during the examination. So once you identify this mistake during practice, you are far less likely to repeat it in the actual exam. That's why written practice is very important. Another important point is the order of computation. So sequence matters in rebate and marginal relief computation. So for marginal relief, first compute the marginal relief and then apply the health and education cess. And for rebate under section 87A, first provide the rebate and then compute the health and education cess. So even a small sequencing error can cost you valuable marks. So the next point is learn the differences in rebate provisions. So the rebate provisions also differ between the default and the optional tax regime. So while studying this topic, note the eligibility conditions, remember the total income limit, understand the differences in treatment under each regime. Pay special attention to income taxable at special rates. So these differences are important not only for descriptive question but also for MCQ question. So learn the difference in the rebate and the other provision between both the regimes clearly. So keep a separate common mistakes notebook. So as you practice question, maintain a dedicated page for errors such as forgetting the applicable tax regime, incorrect surcharge rate, wrong rebate eligibility, wrong computation sequence, missing important conditions, etc. So before the exam, you can revise this notebook. It is often more valuable than revising the entire chapter again. So guys, remember, success in income tax doesn't depend only on learning provision. It also depends on avoiding the mistakes. So read the questions carefully. Understand which tax regime is applicable. Make short notes of important differences. Practice consistently. And learn from every mistake you make during your preparation and written practice. So if you avoid these common errors, you can significantly improve both your accuracy and your score in the CA Inter exam. So further in the coming days, we'll be discussing the commonly committed errors in the other chapters also. So chapter by chapter I will make video. So if you found this video helpful and informative, don't forget to like the video. Share it with your CA Inter friends. And also subscribe to the channel for more CA exam related guidance, revision strategies, scoring tips, etc. So thank you for watching the video. All the best for your preparation and I will see you all in the next video.